Hey friends, this is the 83 Weeks After Party. We have got Eric Bischoff live. This week we are talking all about the career of Raven. We're going to get to the Dynamite ratings, some backstage scuffles going on, and get Eric's opinion on everything going down in the world of pro wrestling this week. My name is Christy, and I have my very good friends here with me here tonight. Hello, Steve Kaufmann, George Hermoza, and Adam K. Woods. How you guys doing?
Doing
Hello.
great.
Okay. I thought we were all going to say hello at the same time.
Oh, hello.
Hello. That would be fun.
Oh.
Hello.
There we go.
George did it.
There we go.
Not doing it.
Yeah.
Wow, and to add to all that craziness, I was playing you guys saying that and the video of us rolling right now. So that was really fun. I hope everybody is tuned in live tonight and hearing all this goodness. We have got all of our great friends joining us. They're already rolling with some questions for Eric. If you have something you'd like to know, just type it there in the live chat and we will relay it over to the Hall of Famer himself. EB, you were just telling us how you are still home alone over there. We got to check in on you a little bit. How's everything going?
Good. My blood pressure is right where it's supposed to be. My heart rate's pretty good. Nothing hurts. I think I'm gonna make it.
That's the most you can hope for sometimes.
Mrs. B is down in Tampa. She is hanging with Garrett and Mary Jane and our grandson Waylon, and I'm grateful that she's able to be there. So yeah, it's just me and the dog here for the next 10 days. It's different, but I'm good with it, man. I'm good.
I love to hear that. Well, we're happy that you have joined us here tonight after this great episode of 83 Weeks, all about one Raven. You know, I think a lot of people maybe were surprised to see that you would spend an hour talking about Raven. And even when you started the conversation with Conrad, we learned that you didn't think a whole lot of him at first. Now that you had a chance to sit down, look back at Raven's career, get some feedback from the fans, how are you feeling about this week's episode?
Well, I just want to be clear, and I think I made it clear on the podcast. I always liked Scotty Levy. I had respect for Scotty. I thought highly of him, thought well of him. I enjoyed being around him. I didn't necessarily like his idea of a character. And I tried to make that clear in a podcast that because I don't like someone's character, or more importantly, I don't think or believe, based on my perspective, that a certain character is viable, doesn't mean I don't like the person. So I want to distinguish that right off the bat.
Okay. Well, we've got a question that lends to that exactly. Between Raven and Scott Levy, Josh wants to know, tonight I asked Eric who would win a steel cage match between Scott Levy and an actual Raven, not Raven, the character. Let's weigh in on this one. What do you think, Eric?
You mean like the fucking bird?
Yes, the fucking bird.
Scotty Levy would go out in just a big burlap bag. Just like, not even burlap, because burlap's, no. It'd have to be like a canvas bag. Like you put a tent in. He'd be in a body bag. Ravens are fucking mean. And they're smart as shit. Like, they play chess and do calculus. They're fucking brilliant.
They remember
have memories. Like, they can actually communicate to their offspring their memory of certain places, people, and things. They're fucking fascinating. That's why the Vikings, worshiped them and all that kind of shit, because they were badass motherfuckers. Everybody thinks like of Eagles. Ravens are smart as fuck.
So, highly trainable. How come we never brought in a real Raven for Raven to work with then? Sounds like that.
Just because they're smart doesn't mean they're personable.
Touche.
Also, WCW doesn't have a great track record training birds for in-ring.
I knew that would come up.
I had to be the one.
Good for you. Bingo. The fucking message fell off the fucking buzzard's leg. What now? What? Good catch. Good. Yeah, it's good.
I still defend that segment because as a fan, I didn't even know better. But did you, whenever Scott Levy would go on one of his rants, would you guys all just be like, "Ugh, that's so Raven"?
Something tells me that Eric's knowledge of Disney Channel shows is probably not robust enough
Oh,
to get
no,
that
no,
joke.
no. I got that
Oh.
immediately. I got that
I
immediately.
stand corrected.
I never thought you'd go there, Jorge. I never thought you'd dig that fucking deep for a pop.
Wow.
But good on you. Good on you.
As long as it pops one person, that's all that matters.
So if we're
There you
developing
go.
if we're developing a podcast
That's
with
one person in the crowd that's going home happy.
That's one person in the crowd that's going to buy my T-shirt.
There you go.
if we're developing a
Oh.
podcast with Raven, that's not a good title. Is that a bad title?
Pretty sure that one's trademarked. All right, guys. Well, we're having tons of fun, but let's take a moment to honor and remember Antonio Inoki, who Eric co-promoted, shall we say? Eric, you can correct me there if that's not how you would put it.
I don't
commissioned in
care.
Korea
I was
with
there.
many moons ago. You were. And we lost Antonio just this week, and he had a very touching and strong last message, even from his literal deathbed. I don't know if you saw that, but
I
what came
did.
across to me is just what an impactful person he is. What were your thoughts this week as we see Antonio Inoki pass on?
Okay, I got to keep this kind of brief, right? Because we have a limit here. But I don't want to get too deep. But I've reached a certain stage in my life where so many of your peers or people that have had a big impact on your life or impression on your life, the older you get, the more of them and the more frequently those people around you pass away. I first started noticing, of course, being in the professional wrestling business, that whole process is expedited, unfortunately. But still, it's always hard when someone that I worked with, that I enjoyed being around or respected or got very close to it at any level, even if it's someone you just knew casually and you read about them passing away, it bothers me. It bothers me is not the right word. It makes me think, makes me remember to be grateful. Got it tattooed on my wrist. Oh, can't see it. Oh, there you go. It reminds me to be grateful of those moments that you did have, or I did have, like, the experiences I had with Antonio Inoki. And not only directly one-on-one, but the things that relationship led to. And when you really think about that, or when I think about that in that perspective, it makes me grateful, but it makes me sad. Mm-hmm. And I got 76 when Inoki fought Muhammad Ali. Who would have known? I was like 3 years out of high school that at some point I'd be in business with both of them.
Wow.
It's a weird thing. Time is such a head trip. And that's what I thought a lot. I just reflected, man, and in a very grateful way. Not in a sad way, but in a grateful way.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. And
By the
to
way,
this
before
day,
we go on, and Christy, you're so good, and I apologize for interrupting you. Also want to shout out to, and I just read this right before I came out with you guys, young lady by the name of Sarah Lee
yes.
that passed away. Just broke my heart. Mm-hmm. And I don't know her, never met her, but it just broke my heart. So my thoughts go out to her and her family.
Yes, and there is a GoFundMe page as well. Many wrestling fans out there are probably familiar with her husband, Wesley Blake, a former NXT Tag Team Champion. They have 3 children as well, and I know they're looking to reach a goal of 20 grand. They're almost there now, but if you Google
I'm
that, you'll
checking
find
in.
it.
I'll be checking into that one.
Yes.
Yes.
As we well should. All right, well, let's move on to some questions from our live viewers here tonight. We've got some good ones going. Let's start with this one from Mr. Whisper. Say that 5 times fast. And thank you so much for the super chat, Mr. Whisper. He says, Raven has spoken in the past about sitting next to you at a bar with you, pitching ideas about reinventing his character. However, he said you didn't like his ideas and he didn't like yours. Do you remember any of these ideas that you had or those conversations?
No, but the fact that we were sitting at a bar kind of sets the tone. So it's unlikely I would have remembered. You know what's really cool is, in the podcast this past week, Conrad, who's like, he's the diplomat of all diplomats. Like if I ever, got struck by lightning and woke up and I was a president of the United States, I would make Conrad my ambassador to the world because he could just figure out ways to get everybody to work together. Oh. Fucking amazing. And Conrad said to me, he goes, I know, you guys have had heat over the years, blah, blah. He goes, I'd really like to get you two together and just talk it out. And Conrad said, Eric, would you do that? I said, Conrad, of course I'd do that. So this morning I woke up and now I'm scheduled to do a one-on-one show with Raven on ad-free shows at adfreeshows.com next week.
Hell yeah.
Cool.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
Yeah.
And I'm breaking it here. This is breaking news. Breaking freaking news. Clip this. 3, 2, 1.
11:25.
Here. Breaking news. Eric Bischoff, Scotty Flamingo, sit down, head to head, one-on-one, clear the air for the first time in 2 decades.
That one's going to be juicy, y'all. Can't wait for that. So back to the conversations at the bar. Do you remember any of your ideas and not liking his?
Fuck no. No, I told you that right off the bat. We were in a bar. I don't have any idea what we were talking about.
So, Eric, I want to ask you, right? The character development from Scotty Flamingo to what eventually became Raven. There's a lot of hubbub of who might be behind this rabbit mystery that the WWE is doing, and Bray Wyatt. Can you think outside of the two of Raven and Bray Wyatt of like somebody who's transfixed and transformed themselves so differently than what we knew them as before?
No, that's a great observation, brother. Maybe if I think about it overnight, I can come up with a couple close parallels, but I don't think so. Not right now. I can't. Not that drastic, and Scotty was committed to Scotty Levy, Raven was committed to that character. That's one thing. I do respect him for. It was an unfortunate situation. He was miserable. I was miserable. Business was what business was. When I finally laid down the gauntlet, challenged anybody that wanted to leave. He raised his hand. I let him go. And then I fucked him when he was walking out the door thinking he could go do anything he wanted to do. He got out the door and realized I fucked him when he got home because you could go do anything you want to do except for go to WWE, which basically means you could go work indies because that's what ECW was at the time.
Right.
It's all it ever was, really. That was kind of shitty.
It was the top indie.
But it was smart.
In a response to Woods, Goldust from Dustin Rhodes to Goldust.
Yeah, wow, good catch, brother. How could I forget that?
Yeah.
And he even said in his promos, "You will never forget the name of Goldust," and apparently you guys all did.
Yeah, you're right.
But
Oopsie.
you mentioned in the podcast, because you guys were talking about having Tommy Dreamer come over, possibly. You mentioned that you didn't even know who Tommy Dreamer was until TNA. Do you want to take back that statement at all?
No.
What?
You didn't know Tommy Dreamer when you guys worked together in the WWE from 02 to 05?
Oh, okay. You're right. Okay, you got me. I fucked up.
That's
I
it.
kinda
All right,
skipped
good job,
over-
George.
I'll go home, guys.
Yeah, you did your job. Fuck you. I never want to see you on the show again.
You're relegated to the bottom. All right. Well, while we're
that actually was a good call. I guess I'm getting old.
If anything, if anything, he was. I don't know if you remember. He was in this actual segment or match right before you debuted. It was like Tommy Dreamer versus Stevie Richards, and then literally the next segment was you coming out in the Booker T and Coach interview.
Well, I definitely wouldn't have seen that because I was sitting in the back of a
Yeah.
limousine.
See, I was thinking that too. Like, I don't think you were watching up until you got there, and yeah.
No, but it's funny the whole my easy God. I guess I joke about getting old because it's self-deprecating humor always works, but I kind of blur that period of time between me being a talent. Actually, it seems so long ago. It's like I almost forget I did it. Like until someone sends me a clip or something that I did or reminds me of something, it's like, yeah, I know I was there, but I don't really remember any of it. And that whole ECW portion of my run there as a talent is kind of a blip. Like, how long did that last? A couple months?
The which part? I'm sorry.
The ECW, WWE, the Invasion, me being involved in ECW, Tommy Dreamer. I mean, the ECW component of WWE, to me at least, doesn't feel like it lasted that long.
That was an 01, but I think when you came in, it become an afterthought. But then they had that one night stand.
Yeah, he's talking about
in 05.
Yeah, he's talking about summer of 05. So that was really the month heading into One Night Stand 05. And then they did another One Night Stand 06, but they didn't promote it as much on TV. And then I think you weren't there summer of 06. So
yeah, plus he did
to
a lot
your
of
timeline,
talent stuff.
Yeah,
I
don't
appreciate
remember
that you guys
I
can
don't
remember better
I don't
than Eric.
remember I don't remember my one night stands as well as everybody else seems to. So.
we really.
Not that I've ever had.
Although, to pigeonhole you into 2005 questions, I believe that's next week's topic, but there's been a question in our chat for the last couple weeks that you had mentioned previously that there was one time you left a pay-per-view early and they were expecting you on that pay-per-view and you never did it again. And someone specifically wanted to know if you could remember Royal Rumble 2005, where Vince McMahon blew out both his quads.
Oh, yeah. I remember. I was there. I stood right outside of Gorilla and watched him wheel Vince out. And he was fucking pissed. Not because he was in pain, because people could see him being wheeled out because he couldn't walk. Oh, fuck. He was livid. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember almost exactly where I was standing.
Well, how about this one? Do you remember what kind of trouble you were making on Twitter last night? Our good friend Mick Mac says he loves how you were getting buried on Twitter last night. Some guy called him a tool. He says, so I got hammered and nailed his girlfriend. Guess he was right. So Mick Mac was out there stunting for you last night, Eric. What kind of trouble were you causing on the social media?
I was watching the show because, I got the TV to myself. My dog doesn't give a shit what I watch. My wife, however, does. So, I thought, I'm going to sit down and watch it. And I like to make notes. Sometimes it's like mental notes or sometimes I write them down. But I thought, I'll just note the show as I go on social media. And I had nothing but great intentions. I put it over. Steven Regal, he's gold on commentary. It's my first impression. I just kind of gave everybody my impressions on Twitter as I was feeling them. I wasn't trying to overthink things or make a point. It was just like, I'm giving you my visceral responses to what I'm seeing as I'm seeing it in real time. I thought that might be interesting. And it was fun for a minute or two, but I got bored about halfway through. I just just can't do it. And I didn't, it's really funny. Like all you fucking, people that want to somehow prove me wrong or come up with a headline that you can, contradict. Go back and watch my tweet. Go to Bischoff on Twitter, @Bischoff, Look at my tweets from last night about 6:33, if I remember correctly. I pointed out that there was a decent crowd. It wasn't a huge crowd, but a decent crowd, but it was dark as fuck. It looked like a Bill Watts production. Bill Watts used to believe, no, you don't like the crowd. Oh, you put the spotlight in the ring. You don't even want to see the audience. Okay, there's a guy that understands television right there. But and I'm looking at the show, like at 6:33, I tweeted, "You have a crowd, light it." That was my tweet. Guess what I tweeted at 6:36?
Turn the lights down. You're watching my tweets too closely.
Oh, great. I can see the crowd. They're lit the crowd. Cool. Now, I'm not suggesting that somebody's not watching my tweets, but I don't know. I don't believe in coincidence.
You
Well,
gave an input, and they reacted to that input. As far as you're aware,
or it's just a coincidence. Who knows? But it's fun to think about, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Well,
So you
speaking of
picked a
which,
great night to tune in, Eric, because it was their big 3-year anniversary show. And as much as Tony likes to look back at WCW and make comparisons between AEW and WCW, I thought it might be fun for you to do that. So now that they're 3 years in the can, it's like 160 episodes.
This is going to be negative because this is where I've lost all respect for Tony Khan. First of all, I can't take the clown seriously. He is a clown. And he has a $100 million clown car. Good for him and all the other clowns that are in it because they're getting paid. Happy for you. This is a guy that came out and said his goal is to win Dave Meltzer's dirt sheet Booker 3 years in a row. Anybody out there got any respect for that guy?
Well, I mean,
I don't.
the receipt was like, Jonathan Grisham talking about his ranking in PWI 500 as a way why he should be pushed better in AEW. So I think, the two things complement each other or not.
It's fucking delusional. It's childish, juvenile, delusional, whatever. But hey, I'm kind of done. I realized last night there's nothing I can say that's going to add any value to anything. You had
him turning on the lights last night, Eric.
Turn on the lights. But honestly, I'm just going to sit back and keep my mouth shut. And if AEW is successful, I'll be the first one to come on in a year or 2 or 10 or 40 and go, well, I guess I was wrong. But I cannot take it seriously anymore. I can't really even comment on it anymore. I can't take it seriously enough to laugh at it anymore. But that doesn't mean that they're not a great product and there's not a reason for them to be on TV. And I'm sure, there's at least 1 million fans every week that like it. So God bless everybody that benefits in any way, shape, or form. I just can't take it seriously anymore.
just to clarify,
I want to be the dirt sheet Booker of the year 3 years in a row. That's my goal. Meanwhile, it's like fucking Custer's Last Stand in your goddamn locker room every week. People are beating the shit out of each other, throwing grenades everywhere they can, hoping they're going to get fired. Yeah. And you've been in business for 3 years and you're throwing a celebration? Damn. So talk about the new car smell wearing off. Oh, shit.
So I guess we're talking about it, the Sammy Guevara Andrade deal. What is your take on it?
I have no take on it. My take on it is it's either all the fucking work and people are trying to generate heat on social media and they're doing a horrible job at it, or it's real, which means it's just a shit show over there, meaning AEW, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere near it. I mean, I'm not going to say for any amount of money, because everybody's always got a price, and I'm certainly a whore. I'm not afraid to admit it. I'm proud of my whoredom, but I try to make it work for me. realistically, there's not enough money to get me interested in even a phone call because it's a shit show. And guess who's going to get splattered with it? Anybody that comes in and tries to fix it. Because it's so fucked up. Now they're digging out of a hole. And this is the part, when I first started, and I wasn't banging on Tony. I was just kind of like tapping him on the back of the head every once in a while in the beginning, saying, dude, be the underdog. You have everybody wants you to be better than WWE. Everybody's cheering for you. What's the quickest way to get someone not to like you? Brag about how fucking much money you have. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're a movie star, if you're a politician, if you're the Pope. Don't brag about how much money you have because nobody's going to like you. It's just stupid. And add to that all the other weird things that have happened. It's like, whatever. Go forth and prosper. I'm trying hard to put it on my mind. The only reason I do get agitated is the constant, incessant comparisons to WCW that Tony Khan made while he was trying to put himself over. Just like no different than CM Punk when he came out. And the first thing he did when he got on AEW TV is bury Hulk Hogan and try to put himself over by burying other people. And it's the same thing that Tony Khan did in his own way. By being, if Ted Turner knew half as much about booking as I did, WCW would still be in business. I'm sorry, Tony. You want to know where the flame is coming from? The flame is coming from that statement. And I'll not forgive or forget you for saying it until you apologize publicly. And he never will. And he doesn't have to. But I don't have to really give a shit about AEW either.
And to your point about $100 million clown car, you said this is going to become someone's mess to clean up. My theory is that it's never going to come off the road. Because if a $100 million clown car stays on the road, nobody realizes there's a problem enough to try and fix it.
But here's where I think perhaps, because I'm not sure, you might be wrong. The property is not performing. Mm-hmm. Now, you can say, oh, it's like the third most successful show on Wednesday nights on TBS. You can come up, you can spin the fuck out of that shit all you want. Yeah. Here's where the rubber meets the road. The rubber meets the road when ad sales, Turner ad sales, can look at the revenue that it's created with AEW and determine whether or not that's a good investment or not. If they're having a hard time selling advertising in AEW, and look, it's naturally, historically been kind of a hostile environment for most mainstream advertisers. Mm-hmm. That's just across the board. WWE, WCW when it was around, AEW, I'm sure. Wrestling is just a weird thing. It's not a comedy, but it kind of is. It's not a drama, but it kind of is. It's not sports, but it kind of is. I mean, it's like, what the fuck is it? It just kind of is. Kind of is hard to sell.
Yeah.
And that's where the rubber meets the road. And that's a number. That's an equation. That's a data point that Brandon Thurston and all these other people in WrestleNomics and the people that try to analyze the analyzation that other people analyze and they kind of make it their own and interpret it. That's the information they're not getting. That's the only number that fucking matters. Mm-hmm. If Turner ad sales is making money on AEW, AEW is in good shape. If they're not, or if they think they can make more money with a different property, AEW's got a problem. And nobody knows that.
What specifically about the value of Andrade? If he is planning on leaving AEW and hoping to go back to WWE, does these shenanigans backstage, do you think that devalues him to WWE? Do you think that hurts his chances of going back?
I don't know. That's a judgment. I can only tell you how it would make me feel. Mm-hmm. I'd be a little concerned about that because here's the deal. When anytime anybody would come over from WWE to WCW in our first meeting, if I didn't know them already, kind of put that off to the side. But if it was like the first time I met someone that was from WWE and I'm talking about bringing them into WCW, and the first thing they do is bury, and it's happened. If the first thing they did was bury Vince McMahon or bury WWE, I'd be going like, all right, first of all, you suck it up. Second of all, you do the same thing to me. So when somebody behaves that way backstage, now I don't know what the situation was. Nobody does that I know of. But I'd be a little nervous about somebody that was prone to backstage altercations, because that's a lawsuit. That's risk. It's like at some point, that's a risk that, you have to decide whether it's worth it or not. And you typically don't want people around backstage that want to settle shit on their own. It happens occasionally and, whatever. But actually, if AEW was producing all their backstage drama, it would get a lot higher ratings than their in-ring drama.
Absolutely. Well, and as you say that, it just comes to my mind that, Andrade at WWE was tranquilo, right? He was cool as a cucumber. I worked with him there for a year when he was NXT champion. Certainly not the kind of guy you would ever expect to be in a backstage altercation. In a different environment like AEW, that's what he is resorting to. I think that in itself says something.
Well, we don't know that he did. I don't know. Maybe you know something I don't know. But all I've read is I read one account where there were punches thrown. I read another account within the last couple hours where there was actually no punches thrown. And Sammy turned Andrade around, and on one account Andrade threw a punch. I don't fucking know.
I think
it's
hope that they've installed some cameras backstage there.
How many weeks has it been that they've been investigating the backstage incident between CM Punk? I mean, what the fuck? This is not the Hunter Biden case, for God's sake. This isn't national security bullshit. They're still under investigation. What the fuck? Are they doing forensics? Are there body parts that need to be analyzed? Is there
Doesn't
DNA
that mean they're
evidence
arguing with lawyers?
What the fuck? It's been 4 weeks.
I think they're stalling because they know if they levy any formal punishment against CM Punk, he'll just quit and then they'll have to buy out his contract. But that's just me. I'm not an insider.
Congratulations, Tony Khan. I told you he would be the worst investment in professional wrestling history, and I was right. And when you're done apologizing to Ted Turner, you can also apologize to me for giving me shit for calling you out on that. You owe me two, Tony.
Sounds like you need a celebration for you being right. But speaking of celebration, how did you celebrate the National Scissoring Day?
Oh yeah, we gotta get your take on this.
That was great.
I mean, look, I get that kind of humor. It's like adultish. It's like 25 to 35-year-old kind of humor. Kind of cool. Scissoring, lesbian sexual act, double entendre.
What?
Yeah, I get it.
Huh, this whole
It's
time,
kind of cool to all the prepubescents and the recently pubescent, teenagers out there. I get it. But one of the things I pointed out in one of my first tweets is I'm into the first match, which, by the way, I had no idea why I'm watching. Who was it? It was
MJF versus Wheeler Yuta.
Yeah, MJF. And no idea why I'm watching it. Shit just popped up. Here we go. Boom, we're in the match. Nothing in commentary gave me any real backstory. If it was mentioned, it didn't catch my attention because I was looking for it. No setup for it.
It was there.
No intro for it. No attempt at all to make it a fucking big deal or make it a continuation of what happened last week. By the way, reminding some people what happened last week. God forbid you produce an episodic television show the way 99.98% of the people that produce successful episodic television shows do it, by telling the audience, not only reminding them, in case you didn't watch, or even if you did, here's why we want you to watch. Here's what we want you to watch closely tonight. That's telling the audience what you want them to pay attention to. That's how you produce a fucking television show, by the way. Right? Didn't do it. And I posted that last night, and the first, oh, I can't believe it. Well, if you would have watched last week, you're missing the fucking point, you moron.
And by the way, you're not saying waste 4 minutes of television time to show us something that happened last week.
It would take 20 seconds, a clip, 30 seconds.
It could be a lower third right before the bell.
Yeah.
Anything. Just give me a reason to remember and care. I fucking dare you. Oh, and why can't we grow our audience? Well, because we're making these, internet people happy and they don't think it's necessary. Cool. Keep going. Mm-hmm. Didn't I say earlier I wasn't going to talk about them anymore? What the fuck?
Well,
okay, well we can shift a little and talk about an aspiring pro wrestling promoter who may or may not have quite as much money as Tony, but he certainly has a name and the fame. We are talking about Freddie Prinze Jr. Charlene, our good friend, hey Charlene, wants to know, has Eric talked to Freddie Prinze Jr. about his wrestling script he's working on? And I believe it's even gone beyond that. Freddie says he's got some money together. He's got ideas. He made an official offer to the Bray Wyatt. So he is certainly making this thing happen. Have you spoken to him, Eric?
I have not. I've never met Freddie. I've never had a conversation with Freddie. I've never exchanged texts or emails with Freddie. So in case there's any ambiguity out there, nope. And I wish him the best. It's a tough world, man. But the entertainment business is a tough business. Any form of entertainment, music, television, wrestling, movies, comic books, you name it, it's tough. But God bless him. I hope he's successful.
Yeah, well, and it'll be really fun to watch him put it all together, make it happen.
Whatever it is.
Let's get to a couple quick super chats. The Landlord Harassment Channel wants to know, who did you think would be a top guy but didn't? Or is that not how you assess talent?
No, I didn't assess talent that way. I never looked at talent and said, is this person potentially a top guy? I always looked at talent as, is this person capable of being a supporting cast member of this show? And sometimes supporting cast members become stars. But I never looked at someone and made a decision based on whether or not I thought he or she could be the number one star. Never.
Also,
well,
Landlord Harassment. Sorry.
Stars. Another super chat from Josh talking about his 7th and 8th grade stars. He says, please give McCormick Junior High School 8th grade football team in Cheyenne a shout out for becoming the two-time city champs. This team has won as both 7th and 8th
McCormick
graders.
Junior High School. Congratulations. That is awesome. I love that. And I love that Josh is, got a Cheyenne, Wyoming football team he's happy about.
Yeah, congratulations.
There's only a little over
guys.
600,000. There's only 600,000 people in this whole state of Wyoming, which is the size of Colorado, by the way, or give or take. So, people are few and far between out there. So when we find somebody that's an Ad Free Show's family member that's also part of Wyoming, I dig it.
Hell yeah.
Love that. How about this one from the Landlord Harassment Channel, which is also another Josh? He wants to know if you think Fandango was a Disco Inferno ripoff. Big drama. You remember Fandango, WWE? He had the bell bottoms and he was shaking his hips. He brought the funk for sure.
Kind of like Danny Terrio. Do you remember Danny Terrio?
Ooh.
I don't.
This isn't me quickly Googling that.
Yeah, Kaufmann's going to have to Google Danny Terrio.
I know Danny Zuko.
No,
Yeah, that's what I
Danny
thought you meant.
Dance
That's Danny
Fever.
Bonaducci.
And I know
No.
Variety series Dance Fever from 79 to 85.
I know
There
Danny
you go.
Danny Trejo.
Look at Danny Terrio and tell me that doesn't look like Fandango.
And also Disco
They're all
Inferno.
ripping each other off.
Or Disco Inferno.
They're all ripping off Danny Terrio, who is the choreographer and coach to John Travolta on Saturday Night Fever.
There you go. Everybody
Quick with
rips
it.
something off from everybody.
Got to Google the internet.
Google the
I love
internet. One of my favorite T-shirts. I said Google the internet for the very first time, but I was like saying it. I wasn't like, I just said it. I wasn't trying to be funny or anything. It just came out fucked up. And Conrad busted out laughing. He laughed so hard. That's why I became a T-shirt, because Conrad, he thought it was so funny. I didn't even know what he was laughing at. It took me 20 seconds to get the joke.
Aw, the early days of 83 weeks. Here's another super chat from Mr. Whisper back to Raven. He says, Raven was known to be a polarizing figure in the back. Was there anyone in particular he had a problem with, or vice versa?
No, he was just a crabby, miserable bastard. He's just always depressed, you know. He was his character. I say that lovingly. But
You know, if
no, Scotty Levy played the Raven character, and the Raven character was a dark, miserable, depressed, borderline clinical personality. That wasn't a lot different backstage. It's not like he went from that dark character in the ring and then got backstage and was like cutting one-liners. Well, not that kind, maybe, but you know what I mean. He was just not happy. Who wants to be around people that aren't happy? I don't. Fuck. I just get as far away as I can.
Well, maybe it's because he was so marginalized. Desert Eagle wants to know why. Why did WWE marginalize Raven? He says WCW used him way better.
What the fuck does marginalized mean? Who was that
I think
bitch?
Desert Eagle's trying
that?
to be nice. He's trying to sound diplomatic. Why didn't they give the guy a damn chance? Is what he wanted to say.
So what you're saying is
Damn
what about
chance,
Raven?
like the amount of primetime television real estate he was given to get over? How about that? How many different ways did we try to get that character over? How much valuable television time was he given to get that character over? It didn't get over. So I'm throwing a flag on that one.
All right, there's your answer, Desert Eagle. And something else that everybody in the pro wrestling world is talking about is this White Rabbit business. Josh says, Easy-E, Bray Wyatt, White Rabbit needs to be the one to beat the tribal chief. He's talking about Roman Reigns. Do you think he should be the Fiend or cult leader Bray if he returns? Do you have a favorite incarnation of Bray Wyatt?
I do not. I didn't really get into the Bray Wyatt, even towards the end when I was there, because I wasn't involved in it. I didn't hear about how it was being developed. It was kind of its own thing outside of creative, and the people involved in it would come to creative and go, okay, this is what we're thinking for this week, and there would be some exchange going back and forth. But it was a very small circle of people involved in the whole Bray Wyatt thing, and I wasn't one of them. So I never really understood what was going on with that character until I saw it happening on television, because I wasn't involved with it. So I found it to be fascinating and interesting towards the end, and especially after I left, I felt like, wow, now they're forcing it. And because of the way I think, I always think about the business side of things before I think about the creative side. It's like, wait a minute. This thing's working like crazy. They're selling all kinds of Bray Wyatt shit. Mm-hmm. Merchandise is going nuts. So now they're pushing it too hard. It went from being something organic and cool to being mass-produced over a period of about 60 days. And I kind of saw that as it was happening, because when I first got there, it was very organic and very cool, kind of mysterious. And I was there long enough, 4 months, where I saw things like explode merchandise-wise. And at the same time, even though I wasn't involved with it, I watched it start to become force-fed. Mm-hmm. And once you force-feed something, it takes the it takes the authenticity out of it, and people don't feel like they're discovering it. And that's really glad I brought that up. Some of the best TV, I think, is when it's produced in a way that allows the audience, however briefly, almost subconsciously, to feel like they're discovering something. That's part of the engagement, whether that's a part of story or character or whatever. There's a lot of different ways to achieve that. But sometimes with wrestling, everything is pushed so hard and so fast because of the nature of the business that you push something that's really good too hard, too fast, and it meets an early demise because the audience gags on it. It's no longer organic and authentic.
Also, quick shout out to Josh Coffey who asked that question. He is also a key holder at the KC Vault. Go to youtube.com/KC Vault. Gotta get a plug in there.
Is that a strip club?
It's not a strip club yet,
Sounds like
but
one.
get enough subscribers, we work for them.
I'm in.
Listen, he's in Forbes. He knows what he's talking about. Eric, while we're on WWE, do you know Nick Khan? Have you ever worked with him, talked to him? Did you know of him before he went to WWE?
I knew of him before he got to WWE because a friend of mine used to have his job. There was a guy by the name of Howie Newchow that used to be, I believe he was the president of CAA Sports, and Howie and I were pretty good friends for a long time and discussed doing business together. And I lost track of Howie, and then I found out years later that Nick Khan was in that role. But I've had maybe 45 seconds of conversation with Nick Khan.
Oh, when and where would that have been?
Probably WrestleMania.
Oh,
Just social.
yeah.
Maybe longer. Maybe a couple minutes, but just all superficial social stuff. Nothing meaningful. Otherwise, I'd remember it. I don't.
Well, Tony Khan's coming for him publicly too, so you two have that in common now.
Oh my God.
you poor guys. Let's just take this quick comment from Stan the Man 68. He said he went to an evening with Raven in Vancouver a year or so ago, and Raven spoke more about his diabetes and his need for snacks more than anything else. Stan was disappointed. I think, Raven maybe has a...
Are diabetes, is
particular kind of-
diabetes and the need for sex somehow connected?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, you jumped
Say,
right
not
in
that
there.
I know of.
Yeah, because it's your blood sugar. It's your body's ability to metabolize. Like, if I considered normal metabolizing of food means you could eat a meal and then not need anything and keep your blood sugar normal. But if you have diabetes, your ability to metabolize sugar changes drastically.
So you have to have sex?
No, you have to have sugar. You have to
What the
have.
fuck does that have to do with sex?
Sugar sex?
I
I
didn't
mean,
hear
I'm
sex.
into the whipped
Okay.
cream thing every once in a while. Yeah, I'll throw a cherry on top. I don't care. But what the hell? How are these two things connected? For God's sake, help me here.
I heard snacks. SNACKS, not sex.
Oh, we're talking about two different things.
It still applies. I swear to God.
Oh my God. This is the best YouTube show ever.
Wow.
Snacks.
Oh,
Like a
you
little
either
candy
get your
bar if you
insulin
have
or an
diabetes.
HJ,
Yes, you need-
whatever you need.
I heard what Eric heard. Just throwing it out
Yeah,
there.
see?
I mean, this whole conversation has made my fucking brain start to expand in a way that almost hurts. Like it might explode. This is nuts. I'm thinking, what the hell does sugar and treats have to do with sex? Outside of a little recreational foreplay. I mean, I don't get it.
It's the lip gloss. That was snacks.
There you go.
All right. Well, we don't want your brain to explode live right here on the air, Eric. So we are going to get over to our special
fucking nuts.
ad-free shows after party. But one more from Mick Mac before we roll over. You sold better against John Cena than 50% of the AEW roster, which I don't get. But hey, we love to hear all your comments. questions and such, folks. If you are watching here live on the 83 Weeks channel, make sure you click that big red subscribe button and turn on the notifications as well, so you know every time we go live and you have an opportunity to talk to Eric. We do this Thursdays at 5 p.m. Pacific time. We hope to see you here live. And right now we are going to go to our special after party for our ad-free shows, Top Guys. So if you are a top guy, check your email. If you're not, head on over to adfreeshows.com and sign up for this and lots more other cool stuff too. So we will see you all next week. And Top Guys, stay tuned. Adios.
I got the knick-knack thing.
Because it's that match 17 years ago today. Eric had a match with John Cena.
Right.
Gonna use the restroom.
Go for it.
Okie dokie.
Yeah, and his selling was better than 90% of the AEW roster, right?